So how many of you were able to put into effect your plan yesterday for your attachment? How many of you were able to do that? Okay. Well, that was 25%. So for those of you who weren't able to put it into effect, can you think about what was the problem? Did you just forget? Or were there other things that came in the way? What was the difficulty? Old habits creeped in, okay. Any other thoughts about what was the difficulties? For those of you who didn't follow through with your plan? Oh, you had a quote in a book that you lent to someone else. You want to start reading the Gayatri book, but you can't do it yet because someone else has the book. Oh, okay. Have you made some steps towards getting the book back? You haven't done that yet. Okay. Do you have a phone with you? Would you right now, this moment, write a message to the person who has the book and ask them to give the book back? Okay. Anyone else? What was the obstacle? Anyone else? Oh, so you made a plan and then you immediately forgot your plan? You don't remember what you planned yesterday. So you didn't write it down. And then so you didn't write it down, so you forgot it. Can you try to remember it now? What was your plan? You don't even remember what I asked you to do. Okay. So before I put this down, what were the items, people, places, whatever, where Radhanath Das Goswami said we should develop unprecedented excessive attachment? Someone tell me, anybody? Guru. The holy places, what else? Someone else? Devotees, and with you must be the Gayatri Mantra. Okay, what else? Holy name. Process of surrender. All right, so I asked you all to make a plan. I asked you to make a plan by which you could actually do this, by which you could increase your attachment. I said to pick how many of them? How many? 1. Should I tell you how to make good plans that work? But first I want to ask some people who actually followed through on their plans. You don't need to tell me what your plan was. So some of you followed through on it. Why did it work? Yeah? If you like, that's up to you. You combine two. Okay, well, you're efficient. Okay, that's complicated. So you're going to watch how other people surrender to Krishna. You're going to try to emulate that, then you're going to try to teach others. So were you able to observe anyone surrendering in the last 24 hours? Okay, so you watch people offering obeisances. I'm repeating this for the internet folks. And offering obeisances and chanting rounds. Very nice. Someone else, if you want to tell me why your plan worked? Okay, so yesterday you chanted a couple extra rounds, and in what? With more attention. Okay. And how were you able to get that to work? How were you able to actually do that? It's just willpower. Okay. By the way, willpower is a hard thing to depend on long term. Anyone else whose plan worked? All right, so I'm going to tell you how to make plans that work. This is a basic formula, how to make plans that work. First of all, state them in the positive. So you don't say, I'm not going to get angry. But you can say, I want to be peaceful under provocation. State it. The question you can ask is, what do you want instead if you end up with a negative goal? Or I, if it's for yourself. So instead of, I'm going to stop spacing out when I chant, what do you want instead? I'm going to concentrate when I chant, yes. So you ask, what do you want instead? This is useful with other people too. Like if you're saying to your kid, stop jumping on the furniture, it's more useful to say, would you please sit on the furniture instead of jumping on it? Or would you please get down from the couch instead of jumping on it? What happens when we say things in the negative is we're actually more likely to get the negative. Like if I say to you, you can think of whatever you want except not a blue elephant. Yeah. So if I just think, I'm not going to space out on my japa, or, I'm not going to criticize devotees, then that's the picture that comes to your mind, and you're actually more likely to do it. Huh? Yes? I don't know if I should say this or not, but in our Hare Krishna movement, we had many, many, many renunciates who fell down, and almost all of them spent all their time criticizing women. Women are bad, women are bad, women are bad. Families are bad, families are, and what were they meditating on all day long, So that's one of the key things that undercuts people, is when they think about what they don't want to do. The next is under our control. You can't have a plan for what someone else will do. I have a plan that my husband's going to be nice to me. You can have a plan for how you're going to treat him, and how you're going to deal with him when he's nice or when he's not nice, but you can't have a plan for what he's going to do. I get this kind of thing all the time. How can I make my child do this? How can I make my child be a devotee? That's always an interesting one. How can I make, the head pujari once asked me, how can I make all the pujaris be on time? You're going to enter their bodies and animate them, and so that's be under our control. Now there's things I can do to influence other people, but that's under my control. Okay, next thing is specific for thinking, feeling, and willing. Sorry, you guys probably put a U in that. So, if I want to chant some extra rounds every day, every day I'm going to chant more than 16, whatever, maybe 5 beads more or 1 round more. So that's behavior. What thoughts am I going to have about that? How am I going to feel about it? If I don't add those, it's not likely to be sustained. This is a whole system. How we think affects how we feel and what we do. How we feel affects what we think and what we do. What we do affects how we think and how we feel. Have your plan encompass all of them. And specific for time, place, and circumstance. Like, let's say, I want to increase my attachment to devotees by focusing on their good qualities. But is that appropriate 100% of the time? No. There may be sometimes we have to say, Prabhu, do you think that you could please stop shouting at everybody right now and just take care? There might be some circumstance in which you have to point out some problem to somebody. You follow? Does that make sense? Or especially like your own children. If you just always only see the good in your children, they're going to turn out to be monsters when they grow up. You have to be able to correct them. So you might want to have some allowance here. And then, in harmony with your life, and these are, you ask the questions, what is stopping me so far? And what is the price? So why haven't I already read the Gayatri book that I own? You know, why hasn't that already happened? What price will I have to pay? Is that a price I'm willing to pay? And these are very important questions to ask, because there's some reason why we haven't already done it. Now, maybe we haven't already done it because we had never thought of it before, and the price is negligible or non-existent. Right? But it's a very important question to ask. Okay, so I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to ask you all, I'd like you to take a minute and make a plan and write it down. I don't know why I don't have faith in that. I have no idea why I'm just not thinking, yes, that's actually what's going to happen, but somehow I'm just not. So maybe you can, like someone else has a piece of paper you can borrow and you can write it down. Please write down your plan, how you're going to increase the quantity or quality of your attachment to any one of these. Yes, take a piece of paper. This is called practical humility. Impractical humility is, I'm so low, I'm so fallen, when we don't believe it at all. But practical humility is, I'm not going to remember unless I write it down, so I have to borrow a piece of paper from somebody and a pen and write it down. That's practical. That's humility in action. So please make a plan. Something you're actually going to do. And then I'm going to ask you again tomorrow. So a lot of you won't even show up, right? Anyway. Pick one of these, how you're going to increase your attachment, either in quantity or quality. Pick just one, please. And it should be able to pass this test. It can be a very small plan. It can be something small, simple. If it only takes you 2 minutes a day. Doesn't have to be big and complicated. In saying this, I just thought of a plan that I had made quite some time ago that only works maybe, 5% of the time, and what I could do to get it working 100% of the time. So I had this plan that at the end of my Gayatri mantras, when I offer obeisances, to also say, thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving me these wonderful mantras. And I just realized that if I did that at the beginning of my Gayatri, before I chanted my Gayatri, that I'd be much more likely to really go deep into Gayatri, and I'd be much more likely to remember to do it. All right, so I'm just going to leave this up here for now. So remember that Srila Radhanath Das Goswami says we should always give up what? Pride. Okay. Do you also notice anyone missing from this list? Is there something from this list that's like, something on this list that's not there? Verses? Shastra, yeah. Okay. Although really, being attached to Vrindavan devotees, mantras in the process of surrender implies that you're in touch with Shastra. Oh, no, on the screen there's just a number. No, the flip chart, sorry I wasn't more clear. Anything that surprises you? Knowing Radhanath Das Goswami and maybe it's his history? Yeah? What's your thought? Okay, but that's there. But that was a good thought. Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is not on that list. Isn't that fascinating? All right. So let's see how we're going to take our first major step to giving up pride. And we're also going to find out about Lord Chaitanya. All right. So if we can sing this all together again. Na dharmam. Everyone together. Na dharmam, na dharmam, shruti gana niruktam kila kuru. Vraje Radha Krishna prachura paricharya mihatanu. Shati sunam nandishwara pati sutatve guruvaram. Mukunda prastatve smara paramajashram nanumanaha. English altogether. Indeed, do not perform any pious acts prescribed in the Vedas and supporting literature or sinful acts forbidden in them. Staying here in Vraja, please perform profuse service to Sri Sri Radha Krishna. O mind, unceasingly remember the son of Sachi as the son of Nanda Maharaj, and Sri Guru as the dearest servant of Lord Mukunda. This is a verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes. Na dharmam, na dharmam. Don't do dharma, don't do adharma. What am I supposed to do? Like, that's all there is. Don't do anything good, don't do anything bad. I just remembering when our youngest son was about 9 or 10, he one time said to me, Mata, don't tell me when I've done something good, don't tell me when I've done something bad, just don't tell me anything. I said, sorry, that's not going to happen. But if we just think, what am I going to do if I don't do anything good and I don't do anything bad? So one way to understand this is from Bhagavad Gita 6.3, where Krishna says that for beginners, they engage in work, and for those who are advanced in the yoga system, they give up work. So in the beginning, we may do pious acts, and as we advance, we don't do anything. But I don't know, could we not do anything? Krishna says we cannot not do anything. He says we have to always be doing something. Jai Shri Shri Radhanath. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Giriraj. Krishna says that we can't refrain from doing something even for a moment. We could look at Bhagavad Gita 4:17. Dharma and karma are basically equivalent. They mean pious action. And adharma and vikarma are equivalent. They mean sinful action. And then there's a third option, akarma. So this is a kind of giving up pride. We generally have one of two kinds of pride. I am a very good person. I do the right things. Yesterday when I was at the Jagannath temple, I had said I would do some service, and then I actually did it, and one of the leaders came up to me and said, thank you for keeping your word. And I'm like, I was thinking inside, well, yeah, that's what I do. Right? And then another part of me said, that's pride, Urmila, thinking, I keep my word. That's a kind of pride, right? I'm a good person. I keep my word. I follow my vows. And in its most gross form, this is Rajagun. I am a good moral person in the world. I follow the rules. I build society. I'm a good person. And this can even come into our, get covered with devotional life, right? I'm a very good devotee. I'm a faithful disciple. I always keep my vows. I've always chanted my rounds. I've always followed the principles. I'm good, 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 good. And then there's the pride of I'm a bad person. I'm a rebel. I do what I want. I'm outside the boundaries. And this can also creep into bhakti, can't it? Right? Well, I have my own way of doing things. I don't have to listen to people. I have my own creativity and I'm a bad person. There's these two kinds of pride. And whether we're doing just karma or vikarma, we're still entangled in karma. So there's another way of acting. we're going to be teaching on the weekend, Krishna willing, career Dharma. Right? And you might think, well, why are you teaching us now, not to follow Dharma? And then on the weekend, you're going to teach us to follow Dharma? Like, what kind of a hypocrite are you? So, but the idea is that we do, normally, the devotees act according to Dharma. Generally speaking, like 99% of the time. Unless Krishna is standing right in front of you and says, would you please lie to Dronacharya? Or I know you have a husband at home, but dance with me in the middle of the night. And if it's actually Krishna, like Krishna, it's really Krishna, then that's fine. You don't have to follow ordinary Dharma. But that's never happened to me. Has that ever happened to any of you? Krishna stood in front of you and no. So that's very unlikely. So generally we follow Dharma, but we do it not because we have the pride of being a dharmic person. We do it with what I call the secret agent principle. Now, if this is all you get out of all of our sessions of Career Dharma, this alone is life-changing. This is a change in identity. Just like all of us have parents. I'm just reading through the whole Bhagavad Gita in preparation for tonight. And one of the austerities in Sattva Gun is worship of the parents. So I could serve my parents because I'm a very good child. I'm a very good son. I'm a very good daughter. And that's why I'm serving my parents. It's part of this pride. Now, what happens if I'm doing that? What happens if I'm taking care of my parents because I'm a very good son or I'm a very good daughter? Will my parents always 100% of the time agree that I'm a good child? Will they? No. Will I always agree that I'm a good child? No. If I have brothers and sisters, will they always agree? No. Or the rest of my family, other family members? And when that happens, my identity and my pride gets threatened, and I tend to become angry. This is the source of the vast majority of conflicts between people who are regularly associated with each other. You know, we do something, I'm doing this because I'm a good son. And then our father doesn't appreciate it, our mother doesn't appreciate it, or our brother doesn't appreciate it. And our ego is attacked, and we're just like, oh, what do you mean? I did this, and I did that, and what have you done? And you know, even if we don't say that, we're feeling that. You know, you're not supporting my pride of being a good child. And we get angry at ourselves, too. You know, it's not just that we get angry at other people, we get angry at ourselves. Oh, I did that. No. And practically all of our conflicts are like this. You know, we're apparently arguing about who took out the trash or whether or not we remembered to pay a bill or something, but actually what we're arguing about is my identity. Am I a good whatever? And the thing is, we're not any of these. We're not anyone's son, daughter, husband, wife, mother, father, friend. We're not any of these things. So we're trying to be something we're not. I say to people, it's like trying to be a good dolphin or something. You know, that's just not what we are. So instead, we want to have our real identity. I am a soul. And the way I find it easy to think about is that I'm one of Krishna's employees, that I work for Krishna's company. And what does his company sell? What's the product? Love of God, right? Krishna Prema. Nice company product, right? And then everyone I interact with, they're in different categories. Some of them are colleagues in the Love of God company. Some of them are supervisors in the Love of God company. Some of them are customers. And some of them are potential customers. They're presently shopping at Illusion Mall, right? And then I see this is not really my mother. Maybe this is a colleague in the Love of God company. Maybe she's a customer. Maybe she's a potential customer. And superficially, I'm taking care of her because she's my mother. But that's just my cover story. You know, when you're a spy, you have to have a cover story, right? Like you can't just go to North Korea and say, you know, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm a spy for the South African government. You know, you have to have a cover story. You have to say, well, I'm an English teacher or I'm selling computers or something, right? And then you have to actually do that cover story. When I was in China, there were devotees there working as English professors in a university. But they didn't go to China to be English professors. They went to China to preach. But they had to be good English professors in order to preach. So I should try to be a good son, good daughter, good wife, good husband, good mother, good father, good friend, good whatever. Not because that's my identity, but because that's part of my service. It's part of my service. And then one can work without attachment to the results. This is a running theme in the Bhagavad Gita. Since it's Gita Jayanti, you don't mind to talk a lot about the Bhagavad Gita today, right? This is a running theme in the Bhagavad Gita. Work without attachment to the results. Work without attachment to success or failure, happiness, distress, honor, dishonor, fame, infamy. What does this mean? This means if your husband doesn't like what you cooked, or if he does like what you cooked. If your mother does like, what you do for your career, or she doesn't like it. That's you no longer need that for your identity. I'm serving this person to please Krishna. I'm serving this person to make Krishna smile. And Krishna will smile by intention and effort. Krishna is not so concerned with the result. There's 5 factors of action. We're only one of them. We don't have control over the result. But I certainly don't have control over how other people feel about me. I definitely can. I can influence it, but I cannot control it. Correct? You can sacrifice your whole life for someone, and they can turn on you and hate you and stab you in the back. Does this happen? Yes, it definitely happens. Prabhupada always gives the example of Gandhi, how Gandhi worked so hard to please his countrymen, and then one of his countrymen killed him. So he wasn't able to please everybody. There was at least one person who wasn't pleased. Yes? So this is our first way of giving up pride. I'm not a good person. I'm not a rebel. I am simply Krishna's secret agent. We give everything for Krishna's pleasure. We're apparently working in the world generally as dharmic people. But we're doing this for the pleasure of Krishna, not for our pride, not for our false ego. Our actions don't look different superficially, but our motives and our consciousness have changed. And therefore, our experience of life has changed. Next thing is he says that see Lord Chaitanya, the son of Mother Sachi, as the same as Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. So the son of Mother Sachi is the same as the son of Nanda. I have no idea why Radhanath Das Goswami is taking Lord Chaitanya's mother and Krishna's father. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur doesn't pick that up in his commentary. So there's a very interesting, and please, can I remember the verse number? I think it's 14. I think it's 8:14. Where Prabhupada says in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita that you can fix your mind on any form of the Lord, and he lists like Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha. And then in 1865, Srila Prabhupada says that we should only fix our mind on Krishna and not divert our attention to any of the other incarnations. Now, these two instructions are impossible to both do. You just cannot do that. You cannot say, well, I can fix my mind on Lord Nrsimhadev, but I'm not allowed to divert my attention to Nrsimhadev. Do you follow? If you take both of these instructions literally, they're in opposition. Even more interesting, in 1865, Prabhupada says that we should meditate on the form of Krishna who is present before Arjuna with flute and peacock feather. And I'm thinking, but Prabhupada, I don't know if Krishna was wearing a peacock feather on the battlefield, and he certainly wasn't playing his flute. And so it's an interesting statement from Srila Prabhupada. So how do we reconcile these two statements? And Prabhupada definitely had us worship other incarnations. He had us chant the prayers to Nrsimhadev after every kirtan. We observe the appearance of Nrsimhadev. We observe the appearance of Vamandev and Varaha, Balaram, and we certainly worship Lord Chaitanya. Arguably, you could take 1865 to say not even Lord Chaitanya. That wasn't the form that was present before Arjuna on the battlefield, whether or not he had flute and peacock feather. So Raghunath Das Goswami is saying we should see Lord Chaitanya as Krishna. Now, Raghunath Das Goswami was very close to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He served under Swarup Damodar. He was known as the Raghunath of Swarup, and he was very intimately associated with Mahaprabhu. In fact, we owe the Madhya Lila and the Anja Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita primarily to Raghunath Das Goswami, who met about 3 or 4 hours a day, every day with Krishnadas Kaviraj, to go over the diaries that he had kept. But he saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, oh, there's Krishna. And similarly, we should see every incarnation like that. I mean, we might end up being a devotee of another incarnation. That's also, there are Ram Bhaktas in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Some people might say, well, I'm not really into Krishna. That's fine. But even if we're totally Krishna Bhaktas, we see Nrsingadev and we're like, whoa, you're kind of angry today. Right? We see Krishna, we see there's Krishna. So Raghunath Das Goswami is mentioning Krishna, the son of Nandamaj. He's also mentioning Srimati Radharani. So this is the painting we commissioned for this verse. And in our book, in the back of the book, we have descriptions of all the, where we get these pictures from, where from the Shastras, from our acharyas. So one time Nandamaj had taken little Krishna out with herding the cows, and they had crossed the Yamuna. They were in Bandiravan, and a great storm arose. So Srimati Radharani was at that time also very young, but she manifested a grown-up form, a teenage form, and she appeared like a forest goddess, and she came to Nandamaj and said, I'll take care of your baby so you can take the cows home. Because Nandamaj was thinking with this storm, how am I going to manage how old is he? 2.5. So how am I going to manage my 2.5-year-old little Krishna and take care of the herd of cows? He's very well behaved, by the way. I don't know if he's always that well behaved, but at least right now he's very well behaved. So Nandamaj gave his little Krishna to Radharani, and he left with the cows. And then Krishna also manifested a teenage form. And Lord Brahma appeared and married them. This is where they have a marriage in Bandiravan. You'll see there's deities of Krishna putting kumkum in Srimati Radharani's hair at that temple. So this is the painting of this story. Now also in this verse he says that we should see the Guru as Mukunda Preshta, as the best friend of the Lord. So we're not getting attachment to Guru as God. And this is very important. This is something we could talk about probably for a few hours or even a few weeks. What is proper and improper ways of dealing with Guru? Just like we're told not to worship the demigods as independent gods. But you can worship the demigods as Guru. I mean, we're in the Sampradaya coming from Lord Brahma. He is our Guru. You can worship Lord Shiva as Guru, but not as God. So, of course, we sing every morning, Sakshad Hari Twena, Harinis, N-E-S-S. So just like if a police officer stops you, you show that police officer the respect that you show the whole government. If you go in the Department of Motor Vehicles to get your license, you're showing that clerk behind the desk, you're showing that clerk the respect that you show to the whole South African government. If you go into a country, you reach an immigration officer, you better show that immigration officer. My first time I went to Ireland, so I travel a lot, and my passport tends to fill up with stamps. So I don't want to run out of pages, or then you have to get a new passport. So I always ask the immigration officers, will you stamp it in a corner? You know, they'll stick like a stamp right in the middle, and you can't put any more stamps on the page. And the Ireland stamp is really big. It's a small country, you know, so maybe they make up for it with a big stamp, I don't know. So I'm at the immigration, and I said, you know, could you stamp in the corner? And the guy glared at me, and he said, you know, I don't have to stamp this at all. He said, I don't have to let you in. Oops. So you're dealing with some immigration officer. They did let me in, by the way. So far, I've never been refused entry. I've been refused visas by Russia twice. I was refused a visa, but I've never been refused entry. So one should deal with immigration officers like they're the whole government, because they actually have the power of the government behind them. Just like when Hiranyakashipu says to Prahlad, "Where do you get your power?" He says, "I get my power from God." He's just a little kid. It's just a little kid. He's just a 5-year-old kid. It's not that hard to hurt or kill a 5-year-old kid, I would imagine. They don't have much ability to fight back. And Hiranyakashipu couldn't kill him. He tried in so many ways to kill him. He tried to burn him, to poison him, to freeze him, to have him trampled. And it didn't work. Why? Because he had the power of God behind him. Bhagavatam said it's like he was in the lap of Govinda. So we respect the Guru because he has the power of God behind him. He represents God. Actually, some interesting quotes. Prabhupada says, Guru is not a particular man, but Guru is a principle. Guru is a truth. One time the devotees early in the movement made a poster about Prabhupada, and they used the word man. They said he's a man. Prabhupada said, this is not correct. He said, Guru is not a man. Guru is a truth, who is speaking through a particular person. Of course, we give respect to that person who has agreed to become a vehicle for the truth. You follow? Yes? So this is very important. We meditate on the Guru as being very dear to Krishna. We should not become attached to Guru independently from Krishna, or thinking that the Guru is Krishna. And sometimes you see this with disciples. They think, my Guru is going to satisfy all my emotional needs like Krishna can do. Like we say to Krishna, Prabhu Guru Patituhu Sarvamoy. And they think, well, Guru is going to be like this because he's representing Krishna. No, that doesn't work. Then people become disappointed and end up hating their Guru. I've seen this happen. I think Guru is God. So to respect as good as God, but not God. The clerk at the Department of Motor Vehicles, they're representing the government. They're as good as the government, but they're not the whole government. Okay, we're going to go now one step further, getting rid of pride. Ready? We can sing together. Yadit Cheravasam Vraja Bhuvi Saragam Pratijanur Yuvadwandwam Tachet Paricharitum Aradhabilase Swarupam Sri Rupam Saganamihatasya Grajamya Api Sputam Premna Nityam Smaranamatadatvam Srinumanaha. Together? Listen, O mind, if you desire in every birth to reside in the land of Raja with loving attachment and to serve the youthful couple Sri Sri Radha Krishna in close proximity, then clearly remember and offer obeisances to Sri Swarupa, to Sri Rupa and his associates in Vrindavan, and to Sri Rupa's elder brother, Sri Sanatan. So here we're going to look at this birth after birth, Pratijanur. And this word reminds us of Rukmini Devi. And Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, Rukmini writes, if it were not possible in this lifetime to gain, Prabhupada's writing, if it were not possible in this lifetime to gain Krishna's favor by these austerities, she was prepared to die from such austerities and to undergo similar difficulties lifetime after lifetime. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that pure devotees of the Lord execute devotional service with great determination. Such determination, as exhibited by Rukmini Devi, is the only price for purchasing Krishna's favor. So this is another level of giving up pride. I might identify as Krishna's devotee, Krishna's employee. I'm not identifying as a banker or a software engineer or this person's relative. But I'm still thinking, well, I want my prema now. Like, I'm a devotee, Where's my prema? So this attitude is prideful. It means we do not understand what is our situation as a conditioned soul. I am a conditioned soul because I want to be a conditioned soul. Prabhupada says we can get out of Maya just by desiring to do so. I want to be in rebellion to Krishna, and my basic mentality as a conditioned soul is offensive. So I could compare it to if someone's married and they're cheating on their spouse. They're trying to find love outside the marriage. So I'm trying to find enjoyment outside of my relationship with Krishna. Yes? So imagine in a marriage, if some guy, had affairs with 50 women, and then he decides that he's wrong, he's repentant, he wants to try to be a good husband again, and let's imagine that the wife actually loves him and wants to restore the marriage. That's kind of our situation. You follow? So if the husband comes back, knocks on the door, my dear wife, here I am, I'm sorry, I blew it, I messed up. Is she going to immediately take him back? Most likely not. Now, she might open the door. She probably won't let him in the house, but she might open the door, and she might say, I'm really glad you're back. I love you. I actually want to continue to be your wife. I'd like to restore our marriage. So I'm very happy that you've had this change of heart. So when we first take up Krishna consciousness, we often find, and this is true for anyone who first takes up any genuine religion, by the way, we first find that, giving up bad habits is very easy. We get all this reciprocation from Krishna. So this is like the lady opening the door and saying, I'm so glad you've come. And then the woman's going to say, you're going to have to show me that you're serious. And he might say, well, how can I do that? How can I demonstrate? And maybe she even gives him a list. And so, well, this is the things that I'd like you to do that would show me that you're serious. So that's kind of what happens, right? The guru says, and our acharyas say, here's your list. These are the things that you should do to show that you actually want to restore your relationship with Krishna. So, let's say that this husband actually does the things on that list. Can he come back to the house and say, okay, here's the list you gave me. I did all of them. Let me in. Would that work? That means he's lost the whole point. You follow? He's missed the whole point. What to speak of if he hasn't even done what's on the list? Well, I did 7 out of 10. I did 7 out of 10 pretty well. I did 3 really well, 4 kind of poorly, and the other 3 I didn't do at all. Will you let me in? Let's just speak of that. But even I did all 10 perfectly. She's going to say, you missed the whole point. Even if he follows everything on the list, he's got to wait outside the door until the wife wants to let him in. Now, let's put this the other way. Let's think about people who've offended us. Has everyone here have people who've offended you or insulted you or betrayed you in your life or disappointed you in some way, on some level? Maybe even if it was just a business, an airline, I don't know, whatever. Who decides whether or not you're going to restore the relationship? You do. If someone's lied to you or cheated you or stole from you or just not been there for you when you were counting on them, no matter how many times they apologize, no matter how much they do, it's up to you. It's not up to them. They can never demand. Am I correct? They can't say, you have to give me our relationship back. Imagine that if you dealt with the business and they messed up on the order and then you have to order from us again. You're like, well, no, I don't. Well, we made it right, we refunded your money, so now you have to place your... No, I don't. It's up to me. So it's up to Krishna when he takes us back. And this is another level of humility. It's really not up to me. It's up to Krishna. I am the offender. I don't have rights here. Krishna has the rights, I don't. Luckily for us, Krishna really wants us back. But this is the next level of pride. Then he says that we should follow Swarup, Damodar, Rupa, and Sanatan. And if you wonder why there's 4 people in this picture, we also put in Radhanath Das Goswami. And here we're showing, metaphorically, their books are like showering jewels of transcendence upon us, that we can take shelter of them through their books. Now here he's talking about that we should follow Rupa and Sanatan and Swarup Damodar in order to access the path of spontaneous devotion. So what's the difference between just regulative practice and spontaneous practice? So regulative practice is mostly motivated by fear. I don't want to take birth again. I don't want to be entangled. I don't want to be in Maya. There's some attachment and taste for Krishna, but the main motivation is fear, and the main motivation is faith in the Shastra, faith in Guru. And you can notice people operating on this platform, they'll often talk a lot about what's wrong with the material world, much more than they talk about Krishna. Well, their focus tends to be on getting out of Maya rather than going towards Krishna. In spontaneous devotion, there's an awakening of a specific relationship with Krishna. Oh, I want to love Krishna as my friend. I want to love Krishna as my son. And gradually, that changes the motivation. So it also changes the practice. Spontaneous devotion has a different motivation, although both are types of practice, and it changes a little bit of the process of bhakti. And Swarup Damodar was the one who taught the specifics of the practice of spontaneous devotion. So this is explained nicely by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he taught it in 2 different forms. He taught it as the external path to Vikeshwara Pandit, and as the internal path to Radhanath Das Goswami. Now, Vikeshwara Pandit himself didn't write about this. His grand disciple, Gopal Guru Goswami, wrote a manual on the external path of spontaneous devotion called the Gaur Govinda Smarana Archana Padati. And Radhanath Das Goswami wrote a manual on the inner path of spontaneous devotion called the Sri Manah Siksa. So we have a whole chapter on this in the book. Our time is running out, so I don't have time to go into this in depth. But the external path, both of them, both the internal and the external path, you have to have a guru. The description of the external path, there's no description of qualifications. The guru has to figure it out. On the internal path, Radhanath Das Goswami is giving us 3 verses of qualifications. On the external path, there's a lot of detail about what one should do. And if you followed all that detail, I would imagine it would take you 4 to 5 hours a day in addition to your regular sadhana. It would be kind of hard to be a preacher or to have a family and follow it. It's really for Babajis. On this internal path, externally you're behaving practically the same as anybody else, but your internal process has become different. The external path can be imitated, and you can cheat. On the internal path, you can't imitate it. You can't cheat. You could lie and say, I'm doing the internal path. But there's no imitation because it's all happening internally. So in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's time, there were a lot of people cheating on the external path. So he basically didn't teach or follow the external path, he followed the internal path, which caused the people, especially the cheaters, who were cheating on the external path, to say Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is not teaching spontaneous devotion. And this criticism has come down to our Srila Prabhupada. This is the logo of the Gaudiya Math, designed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati himself. The only copies of it were kind of poor resolution, so we redrew it. We wrote the names in Sanskrit Roman instead of in Bangla, and we updated the picture of the printing press. Otherwise, it's identical. This logo, Srila Prabhupada put on the gates of our property in Mayapur, and you can see here that he has, half is for Vidhi Marg, and half is for Rag Marg. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and our Srila Prabhupada most definitely taught the practice of Raga, but they taught it according to Sri Manah Siksa. And on this path, externally, you're doing the same behaviors as in regulative practice, but internally, your relationship with Krishna is blossoming like an opening flower, according to your particular desire for service, which has to arise spontaneously. So that may be in Shantaras, like a tree or a bumblebee in Vrindavan, or in Dasyaras, following Raktak and Patrak, or in Sakyaras, following Sudam and Sridam and Ujjvala, in Vatsalyaras, following Nanda, Yasoda, Rohini, or in Madhuryaras, following Srimati Radharani and her friends. So in this verse, Radhanath Das Goswami says, Sa Raga, with Raga. So this painting is showing the beginning, awakening of Raga. So therefore, Krishna and Balaram are kind of looking from behind. There's a lot of dust from the cow, so it's just beginning. It's not that clear. And here we have all the chief devotees in all of the 5 rasas. So I'd like you to keep in mind tomorrow when we get into the obstacles, that Radhanath Das Goswami is assuming that those obstacles we're going to be looking at the next 2 days are being faced by those who've already had an awakening of their relationship with Krishna. Ta-da! Now, some of you might be saying, well, I haven't actually had this woken up yet, and I have no idea if I'm a bumblebee or a cowherd boy. I mean, I just don't even have a clue. Can I go on and read this book? So the answer is yes, if you would like to have that awakening. How many of you would like to have your relationship with Krishna awaken? All right, then you can come tomorrow when we start our deep heart surgery. So tomorrow, we're going to be eliminating obstacles, going subtler and deeper to the root. So thank you very much. Any mistakes here are my own. You're welcome to correct them. Anything good here is coming from Srila Prabhupada, Radhanath Das Goswami, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and definitely not from me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.